Video editing is something that is an excruciatingly long process. If you're a video editor, which if you're watching this, you likely are, you know the countless amount of hours that go into finishing a project. And one thing within the editing community that I think is massively underspoken on, in fact, I've not heard many people speak about this at all, is something called decision fatigue. And after 7 years of being an editor, only now have I figured out a process to completely combat decision fatigue, and it's a process or a framework that has actually helped me edit videos literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 10 times faster. And to sound fancy, I'm trademarking it, I'm coming up with it, the fatigue-proof framework. I love the way that sounds. Now, in this video, you're gonna learn that exact process or framework that I came up with. So typically when editing, what happens? You receive the footage from the client, and sometimes if you're lucky, you get a script as well, which kind of helps you speed it up because you have sort of a structure to follow. Then you go, you do file management, you organize everything, you create a new project, you drag and drop all the footage in, and then you start editing the A-roll, right? The talking head, the A-roll. Then after you're done with that, you begin to actually edit, right? You edit the effects, the titles, the animations, the B-roll, all of that good fancy stuff to help spice up your video edits. Now, the problem that befalls us all as video editors is we tend to do a really amazing job in the beginning of the video, and the quality of our work oftentimes slowly drops off the further into the video we get. Now, the reason is because we are usually working on tight deadlines, and creativity is not endless or vast. So when we start an edit, what happens is we're typically very creative. We come up with a lot of good ideas. We spend a lot of time, and it takes us like 5 hours just to edit 1 minute of a video. And then we realize that the deadline's coming up within 24 hours and we have to finish the rest of the video within that time. So we blitz through it. And what we have is really a half edited video, because half of it's really good and the other half is just And this happens because, as I just said, when we're on deadlines, we don't have the luxury of just sitting around waiting for inspiration or creativity to strike. Now, if you didn't know, as a human, you're actually limited to the amount of decisions that you could productively make a day. And within video editing, you're making thousands of micro decisions every single second, which becomes fatiguing mentally, which is why it's so difficult to stay focused on an edit for multiple hours on end, especially when it's not your own and it's a client's. So I have found a strategy to completely combat this altogether while editing 10 times faster and keeping the quality of the edits so good that a client literally messaged me, "Wow, oh my God, this is the best thing ever." They were so happy with this edit that I did. And it was the first time that I implemented this new framework that I'm talking about. So what is it? Well, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to do it, but I'm essentially just gonna tell it to you first. I do the whole process that we as video editors typically do. I get the footage from the client, I do my data management, I organize my files, I start a new project, I drag and drop it in, and I edit the A-roll completely. So I basically make sure the A-roll or the talking head footage is completely edited. J-cuts, L-cuts, jump cuts, all that good stuff. When I have the edit down to just the talking head alone by itself, I export it out, just that. What I do is I then upload the video into Frame.io, which is a great software. If you're a video editor and you're not using Frame.io, you really need to start using it. It makes you look more professional, and it's also just a very pleasant and really intuitive software to use, literally built for creatives and editors. Now, it's mainly a revision-based software for you to send projects to your clients and get revisions back from them in a seamless and efficient way. But I'm using it slightly different. So once I export out my A-roll edited video only, I then upload it into Frame.io. Then what I do with fresh eyes, and since I haven't used a lot of decision-making power at this point in the day or into the edit, I've literally just edited the A-roll, I still have a full creative mind, if you would, or a mind full of decision-making ability, I guess you could say, for lack of a better explanation. So what I do is I simply watch the video through, and I come up with ideas and research while watching the video. Now, this client that I'm talking about who texted me after the project and said that this was one of the best edits he's ever received, it was so good. This process took me about 2 to 3 hours to do, which is not that long if you think about it, especially if you're an editor who's doing animations and videos. That 2 to 3 hours could literally just be like 10 seconds of animation in a video. So 2 to 3 hours is not long at all, especially if it saves you so much time on the back end. So what I do is I go through the video and I start coming up with ideas. And remember, at this point, I haven't used a lot of my decision-making ability, which means I still have a lot of creativity in my mind or in my well, and I'm able to use that specifically just to come up with ideas. I watch the video, I come up with ideas, I come up with animation ideas. If I think a good B-roll idea would be here, I'll actually go and look for the B-roll on YouTube or Storyblocks or something, and then I'll put the link to that in the frame.io. At the end, I have, let's say, a 10-minute edit of just edited A-roll with about 80 notes to myself from me of ideas for every single part of the video. And then what I do is when I actually sit down to edit, I don't need to use any mental creativity or decision-making ability at all. Why? Because I have a clear guideline or creativity guide, I guess you could say, where I'm literally just following steps at this point. I already did all the creative heavy lifting when it went to taking notes. At this point, all I'm doing is just following a list and checking off a list. So for example, if 5 minutes into the video, I have an idea to do an animation, I would have already explained to myself the animation I had in mind when doing this. So now that I'm sitting down and editing, I don't need to try to come up with an animation. I don't need to go search on Pinterest or YouTube and try to find inspiration for an animation. I already have the one I want to use because I already took the time out to use my decision-making and creative ability to do so. So when I actually sit down to do the edit, I'm significantly faster and my work is significantly better, because in the past what happens, and I'm sure you could relate, is you sit down to do the edit. Let's say you're 30 seconds in and you have a really cool animation idea. So then you go and you go into that endeavor to create that animation. You go into After Effects, you create the animation. Let's say it takes 2 to 3 hours. Even let's just say it takes an hour even. Then you go and then you export that or import that into your project in Premiere or Final Cut or whatever. You finish that animation, and at this point, you're super discouraged because you just spent 1 to 3 hours doing an animation that lasts 3 to 10 seconds probably, and that you're still only 30 seconds into the video and still have a whole 9 minutes left. That's discouraging. That kills creativity, and it kills your decision-making ability. That's why it makes it so hard to edit after time. That's why this framework that I came up with, or this process I came up with, works so good, because all I need to do is come up with the animation idea, write it down, and then move on. And then when I'm editing, I don't need to think about these things. I just follow the list and check off the list. Now, usually an edit like this would take me multiple hours to do, 15 plus hours sometimes, depending on how in depth I want to get on the animations and all that stuff. This edit I did for them literally only took me 8 hours. I literally like 5 to 10x to the amount of time it took me to do an edit. Not only that, but the quality was so much better all the way through. So that is what I'm calling the fatigue-proof framework, and I hope it can help you guys as editors. I know it's helped me tremendously, and I've already started implementing this in other client work that I've been doing. I've done this for about 6 videos so far, and all 6 of them, I've gotten an overwhelming amount of positive feedback from my clients, both on how quickly I got them done, and secondly, how quality these edits felt in comparison to my other ones. Try this out. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I really hope this helped some of you guys. Now, if you guys are interested in watching a full A to Z Premiere Pro course, or if you're interested in learning how I would start over as a video editor if I had started over today after having 7 years of experience, you could watch both of those videos right here.